earlier in the week, Henry, Facebook engagement is sinking with no end in sight, based off of some of these e-marketer numbers that we got earlier in the week. Is this finally happening?
Well, this is a maturing platform. It actually has an older audience for digital. It's Instagram and some of the others that are taking the younger audience, so that's not surprising. But I do think probably this steady drumbeat of misinformation and the company not doing what it needs to be doing and so forth can't help with that.
Paul, that runs afoul of the hard data we get every quarter.
Yeah, I think you've got two schools of thought around Facebook, guys. You've got, broadly speaking, investors who are fairly serene. They're looking at the revenues and the earnings and the company that has actually performed at an almost uniformly high level. And then you've got a whole collection of interest groups, and there are very legitimate interest groups with very legitimate kind of points of view, and there are folks that have access to grind. And I think you're going to see a melange of those things that kind of get into the hair of Facebook, as it were. And I agree with Henry. This is a maturing platform. Unfortunately, I got caught making a joke in front of a friend who works at Facebook that said it's a middle-aged photo sharing website, and I'm a middle-aged person. I share my photos on Facebook, so I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. How about you guys?
I deleted it 6 months ago, so.
Yeah, Carl's cool. Henry, when it comes to the shareholders meeting today, though, it seems to me there's nothing that's going to come out of it of substance, because Mark Zuckerberg controls the votes, and these issues that are up for vote that would basically reduce his power aren't going to pass. But the most interesting thing about it is to see how Facebook management's messaging might be changing in this environment, because they do have to worry about what their employees think. They do have to worry about what governments, particularly ours, think when those billboards are going up in Silicon Valley.
I think that's exactly right. I think there are two issues here. One is legal pressure. There's no legal recourse here to remove Mark Zuckerberg or reduce his power or what have you. But there is plenty of recourse in terms of public opinion and PR pressure and government getting involved. The threat of breakup, if that grows, that will influence change. And I do think this drumbeat of Facebook spreading misinformation is going to really cause Facebook to step back and say, look, what we said yesterday, which is, hey, it doesn't have to be true, and we'll share it all the way. I think they're going to have to rethink that over time, because what has been made very clear is that people love fake news. If it supports their political view or their team or what have you, they're happy to share it. And so many of the signals that Facebook and the other platforms use to share stuff is that. Are people sharing it?
I'm glad you brought up misinformation. Paul, I want to get your thoughts on these comments from Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. She responded to that doctored video that did stay up on Facebook. Take a listen.
Facebook knows that this is false. They know that this is false, and yet they've decided to go. Now, we have said all along, oh, poor Facebook, they were unwittingly exploited by the Russians. I think wittingly, because right now they're willing to put something on that they know to be false.
It seems like, Paul, the guidelines, or maybe the goalposts, I should say, keep changing in terms of what violates the rules on Facebook, and what sort of is categorized as misinformation and thus worthy of being taken down, and what isn't.
Yeah, I think Facebook has a massive challenge. I think Henry touched on this. We hosted one of the senior heads of engineering there, who described the thousands of people that they have working in the background on things like content, on things like filtering, and so forth. And I'm not trying to make excuses for them. I'm not a shareholder in Facebook. I respect the company. But, I think at some level what people are hoping to see is almost an impossible task. I was at a family reunion in Clarksville, Tennessee over the weekend, and I love my family, but, for the most part, my family doesn't hold the same political beliefs I do. I come back here to San Francisco where people do, and, you're just going to get violently different agreements or points of view around what should be taken down, what should be allowed, what should not be allowed, whatever might happen to do. I think at some level they're almost in an impossible position from that point of view. But let me address the breakup point, because I think that to me is a more pernicious issue. I think the market's going to take care of this. I think you're going to get to a place where there'll be new platforms that people will go on, that they'll find their interest groups, and they'll go off and they'll find different things. And as I've said before, if Facebook hadn't acquired Instagram, they wouldn't even have an on-ramp into this generation. You know, my kids have got Race the Pup is the Instagram page for our dog, right? So, you know, I mean, that's the modality that they're in. They're fighting and clawing like every other business to be as successful as they can. They just happen to be perhaps the most public business in the world.